everybody, and welcome back on Lit Up with Annie. In this session, we are going to talk about literary criticism of Aristotle. This is the second session in the series of literary criticism. We have talked about Plato already, and this session is on Aristotle, the disciple of Plato. So we saw how Socrates was there, after that Plato was there, and then we have Aristotle. Let's begin. The main work that we have to focus upon is Poetics of Aristotle. Aristotle has talked about a lot of things like epic, poetry, or comedy, tragedy, but the main focus is on tragedy. It is believed that Aristotle also had talked about comedy in length, but that portion is lost. So we have Poetics, in which the main focus is on tragedy. He talks about tragedy, and also he has replied to the charges that Plato had laid upon poetry. Whatever Plato talked about poetry, whatever he said, that why should poets be banished, and whatever reasons he gave, Aristotle has also addressed those and replied. So Aristotle's literary criticism is primarily outlined in his work Poetics, where he provides insight into his thoughts on various aspects of literature, particularly drama and poetry. And let's begin. Introduction. This is about Poetics, the main things that are there in Poetics. So Aristotle begins by asserting that poetry is a form of mimesis. Now, we talked about Plato and we saw how for Plato, mimesis was a negative thing. He said that poets copy, and therefore it is twice removed from reality. Aristotle said yes, poetry is a form of mimesis, it is imitation. Lekin, humans have a natural tendency to enjoy imitation. And he says, you think about it, how do human beings actually learn? When there is a little baby, you try to teach the baby by showing him or her certain things. Let's say how to chew, how to anything for that matter, language. The child learns by imitating you, right? That's what Aristotle says, that it's in the human nature to imitate. तो उसमें बुराई क्या है? He distinguishes poetry from history and philosophy. He goes on to talk about how poetry is different from history and philosophy. And he claims that poetry reveals general truths, universal truths. History जो है वो facts बताता है, philosophy एक philosophy देता है, but poets क्या करते हैं? वो universal truths बताते हैं through imagination and emotional exploration. Then he goes on to define tragedy. Definition of tragedy I have put in more detail towards the end. We'll see. So Aristotle defines tragedy as an artistic representation of number one, serious, number two, complete action that arouses pity and fear in the audience, leading to catharsis. Four major points. Number one, serious. He says, अच्छा जो एक tragedy होएगा वो serious होगा. Complete action. मतलब there won't be any loose ends. It will be a causal chain. Number three, it will arouse pity and fear. These are strong emotions that while you watch a tragedy, these emotions are aroused, pity and fear, and leading to catharsis. Catharsis is one of the major concepts of Aristotle, although he's not even used the term a lot of times in the entire book. What is catharsis? Catharsis is purgation. मतलब अगर हम इसको समझें तो प्लेटो ने क्या कहा कि it's too much emotional. Poetry has too much emotional appeal, and that is why that is a negative aspect of poetry. It doesn't do anything good for the society. But Aristotle ने कहा कि बहुत अच्छी बात है. Emotional appeal is a good thing. Why? Because again, human beings have a lot of emotions in them: fear, anger, pity, happiness, etc. Overload of emotions inside you is not good. Let's say you are very sad and you keep it inside you. What happens? आप अंदर ही अंदर जलते रहते हो. You keep getting more sad and sad. बहुत फेमस डायलॉग है जो हम किसी को बोलते हैं जब कोई दुखी होता है कि बता दो मन हल्का हो जाएगा, बोलते हैं ना, वो मन हल्का होना क्या है, वो है कथारसिस. सो एरिस्टोटल कहते हैं दैट द इमोशंस, देयर शुड बी अ गेटवे टू दोज इमोशंस, देयर शुड बी अ वेंट आउट. And when you watch a drama, maybe you cry, maybe you feel angry, and that's your emotions coming out. Too much emotions should not be there inside you. Catharsis, purgation. So tragedy involves noble characters facing adversity due to their own flaws. So he talks about flaws like hubris or hamartia, and its purpose is to evoke emotional and intellectual responses. Then he talks about certain components of tragedy. He says tragedy में 6 main components होते हैं. सबसे पहले plot, and it's in the order of importance also. सबसे पहले plot है, and the most important thing for Aristotle is the plot. Second is character, then thought, then diction, then spectacle, and then song. Bracket में there are names written, what he has also mentioned. For plot, mythos. What is a plot? Arrangement of events. Beginning, middle, end. With unity and causality. What is causality? एक चीज़ के बाद एक होना, एक चेन बन जाती है इवेंट्स की. No loose ends. Character, ethos. Moral and psychological attributes of characters which drive the plot. Plot सबसे important है. उसके बाद characters जो plot को drive करता है. Then thought or dianoia, the themes and moral lessons conveyed through dialogue and action. What is a thought? Thought is everything which is conveyed through dialogue and action. ज़रूरी नहीं है कि out loudly ही हो, अंदर अंदर भी हो सकता है. Then we have diction or lexis, the language which is used. Spectacle, or it is called opsis. Spectacle क्या है? The visual and auditory elements of the play, though it is the least significant component. Audience नहीं है ये, ठीक है? Spectacle को audience से confuse नहीं करना है. जो props use होती हैं, stage mechanics, that is spectacle, opsis. Then we have song or melos, the musical aspect, the chorus, and all the musical things which are used in the play. These are the important 6 elements of tragedy. Plot. Aristotle discusses the importance of plot in a tragedy. He emphasizes that the plot should be unified. ये 2 चीज़ें बहुत important है, plot और character. तो plot कैसा होना चाहिए? According to Aristotle, unified होना चाहिए, मतलब unity of action होना चाहिए. What is unity of action? Again, that all the actions which are there in a play, they should be of importance. कोई एक ऐसा scene नहीं होना चाहिए play में of which there is no use. Just an extra useless kind of a scene or element, it should not be there. All the scenes should be well connected. There should be unity. It should be complex. Simple plot भी हो सकता है, complex भी हो सकता है, लेकिन Aristotle gives importance to complex plot when it is tragedy. Structured in a way that each event leads to next. So causal chain, causally. A well-constructed plot arouses emotions and engages the audience. Character. Aristotle examines the role of character in tragedy. Characters should have consistent moral qualities. Display appropriate behaviors. Character से question भी आया था कि हीरो कैसा होना चाहिए. Aristotle क्या बोलते हैं? The characters should display appropriate behaviors and their actions should contribute to the plot's development. Characters' actions reveal their true nature. वो कैसा character है? उनके action जो हैं वो उनका true nature बताता है. So their action should contribute to the plot's development, whatever they are doing, nothing extra. Thought and diction. Aristotle explores the role of thought, the themes and ideas, and diction, choice of words in tragedy. Thought should be conveyed through characters' dialogues and actions, while diction should be fitting for the characters and situation. So, for example, there is a person who belongs to a higher class. Diction should fit that personality. ठीक है? There's a person who's a layman. Diction should convey that. Song and spectacle. Aristotle briefly discusses the role of song, very briefly, and spectacle also. Song is a form of artistic expression. Spectacle contributes to sensory experience, but they are secondary to the plot and character. He talks about tragedy and epic poetry. So he compares the two. और बड़े यहाँ तो मैंने छोटे में लिख दिया है, बट पूरा माहौल बना के कि एपिक इम्पॉर्टेंट होता है, yes, but tragedy is the top. While both involve imitation, tragedy is more focused, while epic poetry has a broader scope. Tragedy arouses emotions through action and spectacle, while epic poetry achieves it through narrative. The tragic catharsis. Aristotle elaborates on the concept of catharsis, which is the emotional purgation or release experienced by the audience through engaging with tragedy. Tragedy's impact comes from evoking emotions, like जब आप डर गए कुछ देख के या आपको बहुत pity feel हो रही है, those emotions are coming out. That's tragic catharsis. Now Aristotle responds to Plato's charges against poetry, which were laid down in Plato's Republic, by presenting a different perspective on the value and function of poetry. Plato was very critical of poetry because he believed that it had the potential to corrupt the soul. उनको लगता था कि poetry जो है वो बिगाड़ ही देगी इंसान को और falsehood promote करेगी, कुछ पढ़ाएगी नहीं अच्छा, and lead individuals away from truth and reality. In Poetics, Aristotle offers counter arguments and defends the merits of poetry, including tragedy. सबसे पहले इमिटेशन एंड मॉरल इन्फ्लुएंस. प्लेटो का चार्ज क्या था कि आर्ट पोइट्री जो है वो मेरली सिर्फ इमिटेट करते हैं रियलिटी को और लोग जो है वो दूर हो जाएंगे रियलिटी से. एरिस्टोटल ने रिस्पॉन्ड किया, ही एक्नॉलेजेस दैट पोइट्री इन्वॉल्व्स इमिटेशन, बट ही सेज इट इज़ नॉर्मल फॉर ह्यूमन बीइंग्स टू इमिटेट, है ना. ही असर्ट्स दैट पोइट्रीज इमिटेशन कैन बी एजुकेटिव एंड मॉरली बेनिफिशियल. सो ही लेज डाउन positive aspects of imitation, while some forms of imitation might be undesirable. Aristotle believes that well-executed art, particularly tragedy, can provide insight into human character, teach moral lessons, and lead to catharsis, purifying emotions. Educational value. Plato had criticized कि पोएट्स जो हैं वो गॉड्स को, हीरोज़ को रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं इन क्वेश्चनेबल एंड इमोरल वेज विच कुड नेगेटिवली इन्फ्लुएंस द यंग. बट एरिस्टोटल ने रिस्पॉन्ड किया दैट सम पोएट्स माइट डिपिक्ट इमोरल बिहेवियर, बट ही बिलीव्स दैट गुड पोएट्री, बाय पोर्ट्रेइंग द कॉन्सिक्वेंसेज ऑफ सच बिहेवियर, कैन सर्व एज अ कॉशनरी टेल एंड कॉन्ट्रीब्यूट टू मॉरल डेवलपमेंट. मतलब कि कई बार क्या होता है, हम कुछ ठीक है कुछ हम मॉरली करप्ट देख रहे हैं, कुछ नेगेटिव देख रहे हैं, तो ज़रूरी नहीं है कि ना हम उससे वो नेगेटिविटी ही सीखेंगे. ये भी तो हो सकता है कि हम उसको देख के ये समझ जाएं कि ये करना बुरी बात है ना. तो इट कैन सर्व एज अ कॉशनरी टेल एंड इट कैन कॉन्ट्रीब्यूट टू मॉरल डेवलपमेंट. ही आर्ग्यूज दैट पोइट्री हैज़ एन एजुकेशनल फंक्शन, टीचिंग थ्रू इमोशनल एंगेजमेंट. देन रोल इन सोसाइटी. प्लेटो सेज दैट it advocated for censorship, and he said exclude kar do poets ko from ideal state, because he believed that poetry undermined the stability and rationality of society. Aristotle argues that poetry has a very essential role in society. He believes that poetry provides a way for people to express emotions and explore complex moral and philosophical issues. He doesn't advocate censorship to the same extent as Plato did, and he instead focuses on the positive aspect of poetry's influence on emotions and intellectual growth. Easy hai, nothing big. Rationality and emotions ko balance karna. So Plato was concerned that poetry's emotional appeal would overpower reason and lead individuals away from the truth. तो एरिस्टोटल ने कहा दैट ही एक्नॉलेजेस द इमोशनल पावर ऑफ पोइट्री, बट आर्ग्यूज दैट इमोशंस कैन बी गाइडेड एंड डायरेक्टेड थ्रू आर्ट. बिकॉज इमोशंस पे तो एरिस्टोटल ने कैथारसिस की बात की ही है, So if you talk about too much emotional appeal, that is good for Aristotle. देखो, the way you can get questions in the exam, आपने वो assertion reason वाले questions देखे हैं ना, उनमें ये चीज़ें पूछी जा सकती हैं. You will be given 2 statements, so you should know all of this. In fact, what I would suggest is, if you can get hold of the book Poetics, the translation, please read it. No question will go wrong. ठीक है? So as I told you, how does Aristotle define tragedy? It's an imitation of an action that is, number 1, serious, number 2, complete, of a certain magnitude. मतलब ना ही बहुत ज़्यादा बड़ी ना ही बहुत छोटी. It shouldn't be too big, too large. It shouldn't be too small. It should be of a certain magnitude. In language embellished with each kind of artistic ornament. So language bhi achhi, ornamental. The several kinds being found in separate parts of the play, in the form of action, not of narrative, through pity and fear effecting the proper purgation of these emotions, catharsis. So this is a quote. This is exactly how he defines tragedy. Now, key characteristics of a well-formed plot. Unity of action. Complexity honi chahiye. Causality honi chahiye. The events in the plot should be causally connected with each event leading to the next. Climax and resolution. What is a climax? When the scene reaches the peak. फ्रेडैक्स पिरामिड अगर आपने देखा है इस तरह से, तो टॉप पे, दैट इज द पॉइंट ऑफ क्लाइमैक्स. एंड देन रेजोल्यूशन, व्हेन थिंग्स स्टार्ट्स अनफोल्डिंग, रिजॉल्विंग. रिवर्सल एंड रिकग्निशन, देयर आर 2 other terms, peripetia and anagnorisis, very important. So रिवर्सल है peripetia and recognition है anagnorisis. रिवर्सल इन्वॉल्व सडन चेंज इन प्रोटैगनिस्ट सिचुएशन. कभी कभी क्या होता है किसी वर्क में, अचानक से प्रोटैगनिस्ट की जो सिचुएशन है वो चेंज हो जाती है, कोई चीज़ रिवील हो जाती है. एंड रिकग्निशन इन्वॉल्व्स अ मोमेंट ऑफ रियलाइजेशन ऑफ और डिस्कवरी. देन मैग्नीट्यूड, आई टोल्ड यू, इट शुड हैव अ बिगिनिंग, मिडल एंड एंड इन द सेम सीक्वेंस. इमोशनल इम्पैक्ट. ठीक है, तो these are the key characteristics of a well-formed plot. You must have heard about Aristotelian unities. आप बोलोगे unity of action, unity of time, unity of place. लेकिन एरिस्टोटल जो है वो इन तीनों यूनिटीज़ के बारे में बात नहीं करते हैं. He gives importance to unity of action. He says, yes, for drama to be very good, for the plot to be very good, there has to be unity of action. Well-constructed plot should have a clear and unified focus on action. Unity of time. बात की है उन्होंने, but briefly, unity of time के बारे में. Compulsory नहीं है. For a plot to be very good, it is not compulsory that एक ही दिन में play खत्म हो जाए. Yes, Aristotle says that, he suggests tragedy should ideally take place within a single day, within a short and continuous time frame. This constraint on time helps to maintain focus on the main action and prevents the plot from becoming overly complex or fragmented. But he said even if it extends that, it is okay. What about unity of place? He nowhere mentions about unity of place explicitly, maybe in passing, but doesn't say that there should be unity of place. Later on, these 3 unities, see, Aristotelian unities नाम इसलिए देते हैं because they are inspired by his work. Now, can you define these terms? Let me know in the comment section. Mimesis, catharsis, tragic flaw, hamartia, anagnorisis, peripetia, causal chain, magnitude. Let me know. This is about, almost we are done with Aristotle, and as I told you, if you get hold of Poetics, the entire book, just skim through it if you don't want to read it entirely, but I would suggest if you have time, just quickly go through it. What are the things that he talks about? 26 small sections are there. It's not a very big book. division of chapter बहुत clear नहीं है, but there are small sections talking on different things like epic poetry, drama, poetry, like that. So you can just give it a look. I hope everything is clear in your heads. I will see you in the next session. Please share this video and please subscribe to my channel to get more information and more videos for me to continue making more videos. Thank you. I'll see you in the next session. Bye bye.